The heavens, once a canvas of splendor, were torn asunder as the most radiant among the stars plummeted down. This was no ordinary descent. It was the fall of one who had once walked among the highest, a being whose very name meant light bringer. But now, Lucifer's light was cast out, his once glorious wings shattered against the very earth he had looked down upon with pride. How art thou cut down to the ground, which didst weaken the nations? As he fell, the air around him trembled, the skies darkened, and an eerie silence blanketed the land. Once a powerful force, capable of swaying hearts, nations, and rulers, Lucifer now lay in ruin, stripped of his grandeur, a fractured shadow of his former self. This was the fate of Lucifer, the morning star, once poised high above all others. But now, fallen from the heavens, he has become an enemy to oppose God, the Most High. In the beginning, God crafted the heavens, filling them with celestial beings, cherubs, angels, and archangels. Among these, the archangels held the highest honor, serving as divine messengers closest to God's presence. Among them was a being of unmatched beauty and perfection, often described as the most splendid of all God's creations. He became known as Lucifer. It is said that Lucifer was there, in the Garden of Eden, covered from head to foot in shimmering stones, each more precious than the last. This creature was adorned in splendor beyond human imagining. The fiery red of the sardius, the warm glow of topaz, and the glittering brilliance of diamonds cloaked him. Alongside these were beryl and onyx, jasper and sapphire, emerald and carbuncle. All these stones and more glistened on him, a magnificent adornment crafted by God himself. Gold wrapped around him, and the music of tabrets and pipes was woven into his very being, each note and melody prepared on the day of his creation. This was no ordinary creature. He was the anointed cherub, chosen and set apart by God to guard and protect. "I have set thee so," the Lord proclaimed, lifting him to a place of unparalleled honor. He was granted the privilege of standing on the holy mountain of God, where few could tread. There, he moved among stones that glowed like fire, walking upon them with grace, his steps marked by the light of heaven. However, this very perfection led Lucifer to a fateful arrogance. His remarkable beauty, strength, and intellect set him apart, and soon he grew prideful, believing he deserved God's position. He saw himself as the one fit to hold supreme authority. In an ambitious tone, he said, "I will ascend to heaven. I will raise my throne above the stars of God." Lucifer's ambition went beyond simply emulating God. He sought to surpass him. Consumed by pride, he believed he was destined to replace the Almighty. This pride, however, blinded him, leading him down a path of rebellion. With his unmatched intellect, Lucifer persuaded many angels to align with him, convincing them of his superiority. Yet not all angels wavered. While some remained loyal to God, others joined Lucifer, eventually becoming the fallen angels. The ambitious archangel, now harboring resentment and self-importance, led a faction of angels in a direct confrontation against the divine order. A great war erupted in the heavens. But despite his arrogance, Lucifer was met with fierce resistance from another powerful archangel, Michael. In the ensuing struggle, Lucifer transformed into a dragon, an embodiment of his defiance. there was war in heaven. Michael and his angels fought against the dragon, and the dragon and his angels prevailed not. Despite Lucifer's audacity and determination, the rebellion was ultimately crushed. Michael's strength and loyalty to the divine order triumphed, expelling Lucifer and his followers from heaven. This conflict underscored the supremacy of the biblical God, who did not need to personally intervene. Through Michael's victory, the divine will was accomplished, marking Lucifer's defeat as final and irreversible. The mighty dragon, that ancient serpent who was called the devil and Satan, the deceiver of the entire world, was cast out from his place. No longer would his dark influence infect the heavenly realms. Cast down from on high, he was hurled to the earth, and with him fell his legion of rebellious angels, a host banished alongside their fallen leader. As he plunged downwards, heaven itself echoed with a voice of triumph, a loud and resounding proclamation ringing from every corner of the celestial realm. Now has come salvation and strength and the kingdom of our God and the power of his Christ. For the accuser, the one who had brought charges against God's people day and night, had finally been cast down. He who stood as a relentless adversary, whispering accusations and pointing blame, was silenced at last, defeated and removed from the courts of heaven. With this, Lucifer lost everything he had. It wasn't just power. In rejecting God, Lucifer lost his position and dragged with him other angels who fell from heaven. I beheld Satan as lightning fall from heaven, Jesus declared, a stark, electrifying vision of his fall. In a brilliant flash, he was hurled down with the force and speed of a lightning bolt, cast out from the realms of pure glory. Stripped of his former splendor, he was exiled to a destiny he could not escape, the lake of fire and brimstone, a place of unending torment. There, it was decreed, he would endure suffering day and night forever and ever. Yet Lucifer, once adorned with light, would not submit easily to his fate. In him, bitterness grew like a consuming fire, fierce and unyielding. Cast down, he saw how God's favor now rested upon humanity, beings of flesh and bone, molded from the earth, who were now destined for the fellowship he once knew. And in this favor toward humanity, Lucifer found a new target for his wrath. He looked upon mankind with darkened eyes, seeing them not as innocents, but as rivals, recipients of a grace that once belonged to him. And so, with cold resolve, he set his sights on deceiving them, seeking to pull them down into his own ruin. Thus, his war against heaven took a new form, a war upon the children of earth, each one made in the image of the God he had rejected. In those days, in the Garden of Eden, where God put Adam and Eve, everything was flawless, ideal, and filled with fulfillment. Humanity shared a close bond with the divine. However, Lucifer was intent on disrupting God's creation, unable to accept that a lesser being could be chosen over him. When God commanded them not to eat from the tree of knowledge, Lucifer found an opportunity to undermine the divine plan. Adopting the guise of a serpent, he entered the Garden of Eden, where he tempted Eve. He convinced Eve to eat the forbidden fruit, thus leading humanity into a downfall similar to his own. In response, God placed a curse of mortality upon humanity and banished Adam and Eve from the Garden of Eden. Since then, Satan exists freely, causing as much damage as possible, ruling over the world as its owner. According to the story that can be understood through the Bible and some interpretations, there is a battle for human souls since the beginning of humanity. Lucifer achieved much of his desire by weaving numerous lies and establishing false gods throughout human history. His retaliation was effective, leading people into temptation with desires for wealth, fame, and material pleasures. Only those who resist these earthly cravings and remain faithful can enter heaven. It is said that we have to be sober and vigilant because our adversary, the devil, is roaring as a lion, walketh about, seeking whom he may devour. Following a period of apparent leniency, Satan adopted new tactics to entrap souls. Lies abound, obscuring the truth and making it difficult to distinguish fact from fiction. Since then, the world has become a web of deceptions, and the worst may yet lie ahead. According to some interpretations, humanity is already witnessing the trials of the end times, as Satan intensifies his efforts against Christian believers, knowing his time is limited and the power of God is about to come. Yet, God has an ultimate strategy that transcends immediate defeat. Humanity was given the means to resist the forces of sin and death, and yet Satan and his followers were allowed to exist. By sending his only Son, Jesus Christ, to die for humanity, God offered redemption. Yet Satan's downfall was sealed through Christ's crucifixion and resurrection. His fate is to spend eternity in the lake of fire alongside all those who oppose God. They will face unending punishment, daily and nightly, without relief, as their just recompense for defying the almighty holy God, whose justice and righteous anger will stand forever. In Christian interpretation, every time an individual chooses Christ over the allure of sin and Satan, God is glorified and a soul is saved. The story recounted here is the classic tale of how God's most beautiful angel, Lucifer, became Satan. It is important, however, to explain this story, to make it clear that such a narrative is not explicitly declared in any specific biblical passage. To compose this story, in addition to extensive research, it is necessary to read and interpret certain passages from the biblical books of Ezekiel, Isaiah, Revelation, Luke, Job, John, Corinthians, and Peter. It is also essential to explain that the term Lucifer originates from other cultures that predate the Bible's writing. The origin of Lucifer's name also reveals intriguing complexities. Lucifer is Latin, meaning light bringer or morning star, often associated with Venus. This raises questions, as the original Hebrew texts predate Latin. The term appears explicitly in Isaiah 14. How art thou fallen from heaven, O Lucifer, son of the morning? How art thou cut down to the ground, which didst weaken the nations? Here, Lucifer speaks of his ambition to ascend to heaven and claim divine authority, yet is ultimately cast down. Many interpret this passage as a reference to Lucifer's fall. However, some argue that Isaiah's words target a mortal Babylonian king, one who sinned in arrogance, believing himself untouchable by divine justice. According to this view, the king's downfall mirrors Lucifer's fate symbolically, not literally. In support of this interpretation, translations vary. Some Bibles replace Lucifer with morning star or Hallel, a Hebrew term linked to Venus. This shift implies that Isaiah's lament may have depicted a once revered figure, a king who succumbed to pride and suffered inevitable ruin. Whether Isaiah's words directly describe Lucifer or serve as a metaphor for earthly hubris, they illustrate the timeless caution against arrogance, reflecting on figures, divine or human, who fall from grace. The transformation of Lucifer into a symbol of a fallen angel emerged from a long history of adaptation and reinterpretation. Some scholars suggest that early Christian scribes, writing in Latin, saw in Isaiah 14:12 an opportunity to shape the story of a celestial rebellion, associating Lucifer, the morning star, with the figure of a defiant angel cast out from heaven. Saint Jerome's translation reinforced this association by using Lucifer in place of the original Hebrew term, embedding the image of a rebellious angel within Christian theology. Over the centuries, this interpretation solidified, shifting from its possible roots in an earthly Babylonian king to the cosmic narrative of a fallen archangel. Lucifer is, in fact, the Latin term for the planet Venus, considered the morning star. The name Venus refers to the Roman goddess of love and beauty, who is in turn associated with the Babylonian goddess Ishtar, a figure connected to the Sumerian goddess Inanna. The idea of an angelic rebellion, as described in the narrative about Lucifer, also has parallels in the Book of Enoch, an apocryphal text that recounts a revolt of angels led by an angelic being named Shemjaza. Over time, these elements merged, creating the popularized image of Lucifer as the rebellious angel, a complex figure symbolizing pride and fall. If you enjoyed the video, leave a comment, hit the like button, and subscribe to the channel to discover more biblical stories. See you in the next video.